welcome yourself to this moment, noticing what's present for you right now. And just taking a moment here to really tune into yourself. Tune into this amazing, beautiful body of yours, just settling in the chair or the couch or the cushion, or maybe you're standing. And just noticing what is the overall sensation of the body as you sit here or lie here. Is there any tension? Is there any tightness? And so if you notice any tightness, any tension in the body, see if you can invite the tightness to soften a little bit. But it's not required. It's not a must. If it wants to stay there, it's okay too. It will change on its own. So always remembering that. Maybe taking in a deep breath and exhaling long. And as you exhale, just allowing the body to really gently, fully support it, sink into the surface that's holding you. So if your feet are on the ground, tuning into the way your feet feel. If they're not, maybe there's an area of your feet in contact with the surface holding you. Noticing what the sense feeling is here. So we're more after the sensory experience of the body right now, just allowing yourself to tune into the moment in this way. Or maybe taking in another deep breath, feeling the air coming in. And on a long exhale, dropping the shoulders, releasing the jaw if that's okay. Softening the face. And inviting for a sense of ease. Allowing for this moment to be your moment, as every single moment in your life. And you're always welcome to lower your volume if you like to do this in silence, but still meditate with us. That's fine. You can completely shut down the volume as well and just join us in silence. It's up to you. This is your moment. This is your practice. But if you're with me, noticing the intention that you brought to this session today. What drove you here today? What was the motivation? And is this motivation to your benefit? Is it beneficial to yourself and to others? So holding on to that intention just for a little bit, noticing what it feels like in the body, noticing where it comes from. And now, whenever you're ready, just tuning in to the breath, if it's available to you right now, noticing how the body is breathing, feeling the breath in the body, perhaps the expansion of the belly and the contraction, expanding on the in breath, contracting on the out breath. When the breath is not available, noticing the sensation in your hands or your feet, numbing, tingling, warmth, moisture. Or you might be able to just set your attention on sounds or the absence of sound. Whatever threshold you choose to bring you to the moment, it's fine and it's welcome. And if you notice the breath fast or very slow, or maybe it's deep or maybe it's very shallow, that's okay. We're just noticing the quality of the breath, noticing the sensation of the body, noticing the sounds without looking for anything in particular, but just getting acquainted with what's here right now, becoming fully aware of the moment with a sense of kindness, sense of love and tenderness. Everything is welcome. From time to time, you might notice the mind wandering, telling stories. Maybe lots of thoughts coming your way. Whenever you notice that, that's a mindful moment. So you're doing this perfectly. And if you get taken on a train of thought or stories, that's okay too. Just coming back to whatever it is that you chose to be your anchor: sounds, physical sensations, or the breath. It's coming back again and again, coming home. Welcome. Whenever you notice the mind wandering, noticing where it's aiming at. What's the direction of the mind? Where does it go? What is it trying to do? And after you notice this, just coming back to your anchor, going back to sounds, sensations, the breath. Really paying close attention to where the mind is aiming. And as you notice that, maybe notice and felt sensation. Sometimes when the mind is overwhelmed with a lot of thoughts, you might notice agitation, going back to the future, or maybe a different emotion if it's constantly going back to the past. Just noticing this and then coming back to your anchor of attention. Loving awareness, kind awareness. There's nowhere to get to. There's nothing to do right now. We're just noticing, observing, being fully in this moment. Rumi, the poet, has a quote that says, "The quieter you become, the more you're able to hear." And so that's what we're doing. Just listening in a very different way than what we're used to. So now I'm going to invite you into a reflection. So maybe bringing into mind a conversation you might have had with someone, conversation that you remember. Doesn't have to be very important, but just a conversation, an interaction with someone recently that you remember. And as you remember this, becoming quite aware of what it was felt in the moment. Was there an emotion? What was driving your words? Were you trying to get somewhere? Were you trying to prove something? Maybe yes, maybe not. And as you notice this overall state, the emotion that might have been present, what is the intention behind it? Or maybe we can say the intention that gets driven by that. So, where was the mind aiming at the moment when you were interacting in this way? And so you might notice that in every moment, there is always an intention driving us. And so the idea is that our practice can help us see what's the intention behind this. You might notice that if there is any strong emotion, if there's anger, our intention might be to hurt, right? But not often, not all the time. Anger can also drive us to justice. Our intention might be to be just, to make fair, right? If there is joy, our intention might be to continue on that joy, the mind holding on to that, wanting more. So our intention is the force that drives our lives. But Rumi says that all doubt, all despair, and all fear become quite insignificant once the intention of life becomes love. We're not talking about romantic love. We're not talking about that mushy type of love. We're talking about the sense felt in the body, in the mind. This love that encompasses everything, compassion, kindness. So it sounds like this is intrinsic to us. It seems to be our nature. So I personally believe that most of our actions are driven by an attempt that is driven by seeking love. So an attempt for love, no romantic love again, but an attempt for kindness and understanding and compassion. So even when our actions might be not really helpful to others or hurtful even, the understanding is that underneath there is this need. And that drives us to perspective and perception. And we spent quite a bit of time last year talking about perception, how we see things, how we see the world. So what is our perspective in life is very much linked to our intention. Right? Somebody that might see the world as unfriendly and unkind might always have the intention to keep this guard up, right? To withdraw. And there might be an emotion driving this. There might be a strong emotion, and it could be anger, or it could be loneliness, or it could be anything else that drives the intention. And so really noticing really what's the perspective? What is my perception in the moment, right? Even in this reflection that we just did, and an interaction with someone else. What is my perception right now? How am I understanding this moment? And remember that perception is rooted in our habitual mind, how we see the world, how we're wired, right? We all have very different ways of seeing things. And so other people's actions, if we think the world is unsafe, they might be interpreted as hurtful, right? Harmful. Therefore, we need to protect ourselves. To notice how we perceive the world is really important when we talk about intention. And so then there it goes with mindfulness, right? With mindfulness, we're talking about the aim of the mind towards right intention, which is the aim to drive ourselves through compassion, through kindness, through these states that bring easiness instead of agitation, right? Peacefulness instead of chaos. And so Rumi also advises, and he says, live life as if everything is rigged in your favor. And so we can see how even coming up with that perception that everything is going in our favor can drive us to right intention with mindfulness, to noticing when, what is my perception right now that things are not in my favor, that maybe this person is after me, maybe this person is out to hurt me. Where's that coming from? I'm not saying that some people are not well-intentioned. Sometimes that happens because it's their own drive to protect and preserve, right? But really noticing this and noticing what the mind is aiming at, noticing that intention, that urge to get somewhere, how the mind might be clinging to things to get somewhere, right? And we can even talk about greed, being greedy about things. I personally notice that when I feel greedy, I'm very agitated. So when I want more of something, I become really agitated. I want more. And then my mind starts really getting really fast on this, like, oh, how do I get it? How do I get it? What do I do? What do I do? And at that moment, the practice reminds me to kind of, well, there is that agitation. That's what the mind is aiming at, something that is not really beneficial for me. So then I can come back and come back to my intention again. What's my intention for doing this? Is my intention of benefit to myself and others? Is it helping my freedom from all this anguish and all this agitation and chaos, right? That leads to so much stress. And so I thought it would be fitting to share a poem with you that I've read many, many times, and I think many of you know already, but it is one of my favorites, and I think it's very important for today. And again, it's Rumi, one of my favorite poets, and it's called The Guest House. And so if you've heard it a million times, seeing if you can practice beginner's mind and really listen to it as if it was the very first time you ever heard it. And so he says, this being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, he says. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He might be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And so with our practice, we learn to see all this, to see all these guests that constantly come and sweep our home, empty of its furniture, as he says, right? The thoughts, that might be, as he says, dark in the sense of the word. He says, laugh and invite them all. And what he's saying here is that by tuning into all these things, we can see how we're seeing the world. Again, it taps into our perception, right? And so even at the beginning, when I talked about this interaction with someone, how do the words land with us? How am I seeing the world in that moment? What is my view of things, right? And so tapping into that can allow us to see how we're wired. And every time we notice these things, they become less powerful. Every time we become aware of this. And then we can redirect the aim of the mind in that way. So if something that is said lands with us in a very hurtful way, it probably is hurtful, and somebody might have said something hurtful, but we're talking about when it goes hurtful beyond the normal thing, beyond the, wow, that was hurtful, but now I'm carrying it with me for days, I'm carrying it with me for hours. Now in that sense, it's important to be with it and see, what is that about? What is my view of the world right now? And then this is when we can tap into maybe the world being unsafe, or people being mean, or people wanting to hurt us all the time. And that most often is going to drive our intention to do something about it. And so we can see where the mind is aiming with this intention, and then coming back to right intention again. So taking a pause, right? We did a lot of that last year, just taking a pause every time. And if you missed our session, please don't worry about it. Everything is on YouTube and you can go again and review everything. But taking a pause and really allowing for the moment to be exactly as it is. Right there, noticing, how am I seeing the world right now? And where's my mind aiming at? right? And noticing that could be so helpful in creating a more peaceful life, in managing our stress, right? So as we sit here together, just tuning into this sense of gratitude for being here, wishing that this is beneficial to you and to everybody that's here. And I thank you for your practice, this formal practice, because you're not practicing just for yourself, we're practicing for everybody else. So thank you.